Hey there. Ever feel like the world of finance and tech and geopolitics is like spinning faster and faster, like a Bitcoin miner on overdrive?
Yeah.
Bro, you're not alone. That's why we're here to like break down some really interesting discussions
Mm.
between folks who really know their stuff about blockchain, cryptocurrency, global events.
Yeah, definitely not your average water cooler talk.
Right. Think of it as your cheat sheet
Yeah.
to navigate all the craziness.
And these aren't just like casual chats. We've got strong opinions and even stronger insights from people who live and breathe this stuff.
So we've got Pi Network completely like defying the whole crypto downturn,
Right.
inflation data, making everyone scratch their heads,
Yeah,
even whispers of a ceasefire in the Russia-Ukraine conflict. It's a wild ride.
definitely a lot to unpack.
We'll also dive into stablecoin regulation,
Mm-hmm.
a mysterious Bitcoin transfer,
Oh, yeah.
and South Korea's surprising Bitcoin strategy.
It's a lot, I know.
Yeah. But the goal here isn't to like bombard you with every single detail,
Yeah.
We want to give you the most fascinating takeaways and hopefully get you thinking and curious about all this stuff.
Spark that curiosity.
Exactly. So, are you ready to dive in?
Let's do it.
All right. First up, Pi Network. It's like the dark horse of the crypto world, suddenly bolted to the top of the charts, even while the market is, well, let's just say, taking a little nap.
Yeah, more like hibernation, right?
And they're now ranked higher in market cap
It's pretty.
than some of the big names we all know. What's interesting is Pi Network's been around since 2017, but they took a different approach, focusing a lot on user growth through referral marketing. Kind of like those tell a friend, get a discount deals, but for digital currency.
Yeah, it's a unique strategy for sure.
So is this sustainable? What does this sudden surge tell us about the overall sentiment in the crypto market? Is this a sign of changing tides or just a temporary bubble?
Yeah, that's the big question. Pi Network's heavy reliance on this referral marketing, it's pretty unusual at this scale. Some see it as like brilliant, this great growth strategy, while others think it could be a bit fragile. If those incentives ever disappear, what happens?
Right.
So yeah, it's definitely something to keep an eye on.
Okay, Pi Network making waves.
Yeah.
But let's switch gears a bit to inflation. Those ever-increasing numbers that seem to make everything more expensive every day.
The silent thief of purchasing power, right.
Exactly.
Well, the latest data from the Bureau of Labor Statistics shows a bit of a decrease, down to 2.8%. It's not massive.
Right.
But hey, it's something, right?
Every little bit helps.
Yeah.
But here's where it gets interesting. The FOMC has a big meeting coming up, March 19th.
Yeah.
They're going to decide whether to raise, lower, or keep interest rates where they are.
Big decision.
Huge decision. That'll impact the whole financial world, really.
Oh, absolutely. And this has big implications for the crypto market, too. Like if they raise rates, could put downward pressure on Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies. But if they hold steady or even lower rates, well, it could lead to a surge in the crypto market.
But hold on. While we're on inflation,
Yeah.
our sources had some doubts about those official numbers we hear about.
Oh, really?
They even mentioned this website, Shadow Stats.
I've heard of that.
Apparently uses a totally different way of calculating and paints a way bleaker picture.
Yeah, ShadowStats has always been like a go-to for people who think those official inflation numbers are way too low.
Interesting.
Yeah, they argue that if we used like the same methods as we did back in the 80s,
Right.
inflation would be way higher, maybe even in the double digits.
Double digits. That's a huge difference. So who do we trust?
It's tough to say for sure. Both sides have their methods, their biases,
Right.
The key is to remember that economic data, it's never really black and white. It's more about understanding the limitations of where the data comes from and considering different perspectives when you're looking at these trends.
It's like trying to solve a puzzle with missing pieces.
Right.
Speaking of figuring out complex situations, let's shift to the Russia-Ukraine conflict.
Okay.
There's been talk about a possible ceasefire agreement.
Oh, really?
And get this, the negotiations were in Jeddah,
Jeddah, wow, that's unexpected.
right?
Given the whole history, between the Middle East and both Russia and Ukraine. But it also shows how the whole geopolitical landscape is changing.
Yeah.
And how the Middle East is becoming more and more influential globally.
It really is fascinating.
Yeah.
And there's a link on the Ukrainian president's website with the proposed conditions for the ceasefire.
Oh, wow.
A 30-day ceasefire.
Yeah.
Could this be the turning point we've all been hoping for?
It's hard to say for sure, but even the possibility of a ceasefire is a good sign, right?
Yeah.
De-escalation would not only help people, but it could also impact global markets positively, including Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies. More stability often leads to more confidence for investors.
Yeah, fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed.
But what about the sanctions against Russia? Would those disappear overnight if a ceasefire happens? And how might that affect Bitcoin adoption, especially in Russia?
Well, it's very unlikely those sanctions would be lifted right away, even with a ceasefire.
Right.
They've become a major way to put pressure on Russia. Removing them would need a lot of negotiation.
Yeah.
A big shift in the whole geopolitical situation.
It's not a simple on-off switch, is it?
No, not at all.
So many factors involved.
Definitely.
But let's take a break from all that heavy stuff for a sec and talk about something closer to home.
Okay.
Stablecoin regulation.
Yes, the U.S. government seems pretty focused on that these days.
Those crypto tokens pegged to the U.S. dollar. And everyone's talking about the Genius Act from Senator Bill Hagerty.
Right.
Isn't he the same senator who wasn't afraid to speak his mind, let's say,
Oh, yeah.
when criticizing Facebook's Libra project?
He does not hold back.
So what's a big deal with this Genius Act? Will stablecoins vanish? How will it actually work?
Well, the main thing is about who gets to regulate them.
Right.
Stablecoins with a market cap over $10 billion would answer to the Federal Reserve,
Okay.
while smaller ones would be regulated by individual states.
So choose your poison based on how big you are.
Kind of.
Interesting.
Right now, there are only a few stablecoins, like Tether and USD Coin, that are over that $10 billion mark. But what happens as the market grows and new players come in
Yeah, good point.
could get complicated.
And then there's the whole privacy thing our sources brought up. They talked about stablecoins becoming backdoor CBDCs.
Right. Central bank digital currencies?
A valid concern, right.
Absolutely. The more control governments have, the more they look like centralized digital currencies, which for a lot of people goes against the whole idea of decentralization.
It's a balancing act.
Yeah.
Regulation versus innovation.
Exactly.
How do we encourage a healthy market without stifling all the creativity that drives the crypto space?
Yeah.
This is just the beginning of a much longer conversation. Speaking of things that can shake up the crypto world, did you hear about that Bitcoin transfer from the Mt. Gox exchange?
Oh, yeah, that raised a few eyebrows.
The interesting part is it didn't go to a centralized exchange, which probably helped avoid a panic. Wait, Mt. Gox, isn't that the one that went under years ago?
Yeah, collapsed back in 2014.
What's going on with all that Bitcoin?
Well, this transfer is likely part of their repayment plan, which has been pushed back, by the way, to October 2025.
So they're kind of teasing everyone with, hey, look what you could have. Eventually.
A little bit.
But at least there's progress, right?
Yeah, definitely.
And the transparency of the blockchain meant everyone could see where those funds were going. No funny business happening behind closed doors.
Exactly, and that's what's so great about it, right?
Yeah.
Public accountability builds trust, makes things fair. That's often missing in traditional finance.
It's a breath of fresh air.
It is.
And lastly, something that might make you tilt your head. South Korea is thinking about creating a Bitcoin strategic reserve.
You're kidding.
The National Assembly is looking into it, and it seems to have support from both sides of the aisle, which is interesting given the mixed reactions we've seen in other places, like the U.S.
Yeah, very interesting.
It's like they're saying, while everyone else is arguing about whether Bitcoin is a fad or the future, we're just going to grab some just in case.
That's a really good way to put it.
Right.
It shows how deeply involved they are with the crypto market. They've been big players for a while now, high trading volume, a tech-savvy population.
Right.
Maybe they see something others haven't quite figured out yet.
Maybe they're onto something.
Yeah.
It definitely shows how the global crypto landscape is changing fast, and every country is approaching it differently.
Yeah, it's a really dynamic time, for sure.
It's a fascinating time to watch it all unfold.
Absolutely, and the decisions made today will impact the financial world for years to come.
It's both exciting and a little scary, right? But one thing's for sure. We're in the middle of a huge transformation, and seeing it happen in real time is pretty incredible.
You got that right. It's a time of immense opportunity. Who knows what's next? But one thing is certain. The world of finance and tech will never be the same.
Well, that's it for part one of our deep dive into these awesome discussions. We've covered a lot, but there's still much more to explore.
We'll be back soon with part two, where we'll go even deeper into these topics and find even more thought-provoking insights. Stay tuned. Going through all these discussions, it's clear the whole state of the crypto market is a big topic.
Yeah.
One thing that really stands out is the decline in TVL.
TVL.
Total value locked. In DeFi.
DeFi.
Decentralized finance.
Yeah, right, DeFi. For those who might not know, can you give us a quick explanation of what that is?
Sure. Think of it as like a parallel financial system.
Okay.
But instead of banks, it's built on blockchain.
Okay.
So you can lend, borrow, trade, even earn interest, all without a middleman.
So it's all about cutting out those intermediaries.
Exactly. But this dip in TVL, it might mean the excitement around DeFi has cooled down a bit.
Interesting, because our sources also mentioned Uniswap.
Right.
That decentralized exchange.
Yeah.
It's actually seen a surge in volume.
Yeah.
Seems like it's going against the trend. What's happening there?
Well, Uniswap's success could be because of a few things.
Like what?
Well, one is the SEC case against them closing.
Right.
That gives them some regulatory clarity, or at least the appearance of it, and that can really boost confidence.
So less uncertainty, more people jump in.
Makes sense, right?
Yeah. But it's not all sunshine and rainbows in DeFi land.
No.
They also talked about this project, Radix.
Oh, Radix?
Apparently used to have huge trading volume, but has tanked. What happened?
Radix is a bit of a mystery.
Yeah.
Its volume has just plummeted in recent weeks.
Wow.
And this is despite the emergence of this project, Palm.One Fund, on a different blockchain.
Oh.
The connection between the two, it's not super clear, but it could be that Palm.One Fund is pulling users away from Radix.
Interesting.
It really shows you how competitive crypto is.
Yeah.
Innovation is so fast, and things change in the blink of an eye.
It's like a constant game of musical chairs. You got to stay on your toes.
You do.
Now, switching gears a bit, our sources also talked about market caps
Okay.
for Bitcoin and Ethereum.
Ah, yes. Market cap, just the total value of all the coins out there, gives you a sense of how big and influential a cryptocurrency is.
Right now, Bitcoin's around $1.6 trillion.
Yeah, and Ethereum's at around $225 billion.
Not too shabby.
Not at all.
But what really caught my attention was Tether's market cap.
Oh, interesting.
For those who don't know, Tether's the biggest stablecoin, like digital dollars.
Right.
And its market cap's actually gone up like $3 billion in just the last couple of weeks.
Wow, so people are looking for stability.
It seems like it, right?
Yeah, when things are volatile, it's natural to want something steady.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
What about the rest of the crypto world? Any other digital assets making headlines?
Well, XRP, the one connected to Ripple, it's holding steady around $129 billion market cap.
Okay.
But besides that, no big surprises or shakeups, really. Feels like the market's taken a breather after all the excitement lately.
Recharging for the next big wave?
Maybe so.
Now, our sources didn't just talk about market trends and regulations.
Right.
They also shared some really cool insights into their own projects.
Oh, like what?
One of them is deep into AI, artificial intelligence.
Interesting.
Specifically, organizing these things called hacker houses.
Hacker houses.
Yeah, imagine a bunch of brilliant people all coming together in a space to work on cutting-edge AI projects.
Sounds like a cool concept.
They're like think tanks, but supercharged.
Yeah.
Driven by creativity, pushing the boundaries of tech.
A breeding ground for innovation.
Totally. But what kind of AI are they focused on?
Yeah, that's a good question.
They're all about human-centered AI,
Oh, I like that.
which I think is super important.
Yeah.
It's about AI benefiting humanity, not creating something that could get out of control.
I agree. Making sure AI development aligns with our values is crucial.
Right, and it sounds like these hacker houses are playing a big part in that.
That's great to hear.
And they're planning to expand beyond the U.S.
Oh, wow.
It shows a global commitment to this idea of responsible AI development.
That's fantastic. And what about the other source? What are they up to?
Well, they've got a bunch of events planned focusing on stablecoins and CBDCs.
CBDCs, those central bank digital currencies we talked about.
Exactly. They're even giving advice on how to start a podcast.
Maybe we should ask for some tips.
Right. But seriously, it's awesome to see people engaging in these important conversations, sharing what they know, encouraging others to get involved.
It's all about moving the conversation forward, shaping the future.
Totally. And speaking of getting involved, it seems our other source has been busy in the education space,
Oh, yeah.
hosting sessions on all sorts of topics, from the history of stablecoins to the potential downsides of CBDCs.
It's great that they're taking the time to teach others about this stuff,
Yeah,
especially with these complex and sometimes controversial topics.
right.
Knowledge is power, and the more people understand, the better we can all navigate this new financial landscape.
Couldn't agree more. And one thing they mentioned that really caught my attention was this idea of merging open blockchain with stablecoins.
Ah, now that's where things get really exciting. Imagine a stablecoin that's got the transparency and security of blockchain,
Yeah,
but without all the price swings.
that could be a game changer.
For sure, it could completely change how we think about and use stablecoins.
Make them even more appealing for everyday transactions.
Absolutely. Bridge the gap between traditional finance and the crypto world.
Best of both worlds.
Exactly.
And while we're on stablecoins and their changing role, our sources also mentioned the EU's approach to regulating them and CBDCs.
Right.
They're taking a very different path than other places.
It is interesting to see how different regions are tackling these digital currencies. The EU seems to be more cautious, more collaborative. It's quite different from what we see in other parts of the world.
It's like a global race to see who figures out digital currencies first,
Yeah.
but everyone's got their own strategies.
It's a dynamic landscape, that's for sure.
Totally unpredictable.
Yeah. And the stakes are high.
Yeah.
Decisions made now will impact the future of finance for a long time.
It's exciting, but also a little overwhelming, right?
It is. But one thing's for sure. We're living in a time of incredible transformation. Seeing it happen right before our eyes is pretty amazing. It really is. It's a time of huge opportunity and innovation. Who knows what's next? But the world of finance and technology will never be the same.
It's crazy to think how much has changed, from Bitcoin being this internet thing to this whole world of DeFi and stablecoins and CBDCs and governments trying to figure it all out. What a ride.
It really shows how much we love to innovate, even when things are uncertain. That drive to explore and experiment, it's alive and well in crypto.
Speaking of uncertainty, our sources couldn't help but bring up, one of the biggest dramas in crypto history,
Oh, yeah.
the collapse of Mt. Gox.
How could we forget? It really exposed those weaknesses in the early crypto world, showed us how important security and transparency are.
It was like the Wild West back then, right?
Screwy.
But thankfully, like our sources said, the Mt. Gox repayment plan is finally moving forward, even with a little delay.
Yeah, it's been a long road for those who lost money, but at least there's some light at the end of the tunnel.
Better late than never, I guess.
I guess so.
And at least with the blockchain, everyone could see where those funds were going. No shady stuff happening.
That's the power of blockchain, right?
Yeah.
Public accountability builds trust, makes things fair. You don't always get that in traditional finance.
And that leads us to our last topic for today's deep dive. A Bitcoin strategic reserve.
Oh, right.
It's an idea that's been gaining some traction, with South Korea actually thinking about adding Bitcoin to its national reserves.
That's a big move. Shows how forward-thinking they are about cryptocurrency. They're joining a small group, but it's growing, of countries willing to explore Bitcoin as a strategic asset.
It's interesting to see this change in thinking, especially with all the debate about Bitcoin's role in the global economy.
Right. Is it a hedge against inflation? A bubble? Something else entirely?
Nobody really knows for sure what the future holds for Bitcoin.
True.
But South Korea taking this step, it shows that the conversation is shifting. Governments are starting to see its potential.
It's like they're hedging their bets, acknowledging that Bitcoin might just become a really important part of finance in the future.
And that feels like the perfect way to wrap up our deep dive.
I agree.
It's a reminder that blockchain, cryptocurrency, global finance, it's all constantly changing.
Full of surprises.
Endless possibilities.
Definitely.
So to our awesome listeners out there, stay curious, keep exploring.
You never know what you might find.
You might just discover the next big thing that changes the world. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, and we'll catch you next time.